hit the button, I think. Nope, it doesn't think I did. Hey,
And it's
there's
not.
Mike Sins. And there we go. And I still can't tell whether I'm live or not.
Are both squares now the same?
You're live. I can see you on the Twitch stream.
Oh,
So
very nice.
how
All
about
right.
for
Well,
there?
we're live then, I guess. Well, welcome to this hour of the CosmoQuest Hangout. This is hour 22 of 26 altogether, the Astrophotography hour. And we have with us Rob Sparks. Say hello, Rob.
Hello.
And Mike Simmons, who was here earlier.
I was. Hi. And family changed since a couple hours ago.
Oh, well, she thought she would try on a break for a change. And
That's good, but it still says Pamela Gay there. So
it does
Pamela,
still
that's
say
very
that.
unlike Pamela taking a break.
I am
yeah,
pleased and honored to be wearing the title. Although,
indeed.
but for this hour, I think we're going to do two things. The first thing we're going to do is I'm going to vamp here very briefly on our fundraising status. The whole reason we're here is to try and raise money for CosmoQuest and the science outreach that we try to do. We've already made, and we made it yesterday, our the 5,400 that we needed to keep everything exactly as it is. We're looking. Our next goal is 7557, and if we can get to that, then we can bring back the newsletter and keep that going and ensure that it's got the funding that it needs to be produced consistently on a, I forget if it's weekly. Is it a weekly basis? Okay, and so we're actually not very far away from that. We're maybe $1,200 or so away from that now because we did get a donation during the break. We're up to $6,303. So that's excellent. We got a new Patreon member over the break as well, so that's neat. Our goal that we're hoping to arrive at in just the next few hours as we finish up is 10,001, where we get our producer, Allie Pelfrey, a new production computer. The one she has works. We
Kind of.
want one that works well. She does a fantastic job with what she's got. We'd like her to have the tools to do the fantastic job even more fantastically. So that's what we're here for. That's what we're doing. And as both these gentlemen here on the screen with me know, uh, there's no limit to science, there's no limit to knowledge and exploration, but there is often a limit to funding. And so we're hopeful for every little bit that people can spend if they can spend it. Obviously, take care of yourselves and your families and the necessary things first. But if you can help us, even just a tiny bit, that's great. Share out the link, share the stream, and let your friends know what we do here at CosmoQuest. The other thing that we're going to do is we're going to do something that I think is science communications in a microcosm. Um, One of the hurdles I think that we run into is that a lot of people think that science is for somebody else. It's not something they know how to do. It's not something they're in touch with on a daily basis. I don't have an observatory. I don't, work at NASA. Science is something that I can't put my hands on. And I think one of the big goals of science communication is to say, well, now wait a minute, that's not strictly true. There's science going on around you every single day, and you can participate in this. You can look at this. You can see what that is. You can find out what it's doing. You can write it down. You can tell other people, and just trying to bridge that gap between what's perceived which is I don't wear a white lab coat, I don't have a pocket protector, ergo I don't do science, versus what is real, and that is we're all born scientists. If I hold up, you know, a Coke can and say, lick the outside of this Coke can, what does it taste like? You all already know because as infants, you put everything in your mouth to try and explore it. And that's just the scientific method on a real small scale there. So I'm going to start off by asking you guys, what does it take to become an astrophotographer?
Yeah, I'm going to leave that to the astrophotographer over there, Rob.
Okay, these days, fortunately, it's become a much lower bar to entry as we've seen on the especially this year with all the aurora and the last couple weeks of the comet. This actually can do some reasonably good stuff. Your cell phone actually has a very powerful camera in it, and many of them, both iPhone and Android, have different night modes depending on the model of your camera, which will do timed exposures anywhere from, like mine, the standard night sight will just take a 3-second exposure, which easily shows up the comet here, easily shows up the aurora we've had as far south as Tucson. And if you have to go out in a very dark place and you can do their full astrophotography mode, take like a 4-minute exposure where it tracks the stars and stacks them for you automatically. Then, of course, you can save the raw files yourself and go back and edit them further. So really, this will get you started right here. Just this guy by itself. So, but of course, a lot of people want to go further. So I have a variety of cameras over the years. I started with the Canon. People ask me why I chose Canon over Nikon or Sony, and the choice is not as deep as most people hope. The reason is because when I got my first digital DSLR, Costco carried Canon cameras. That's it. No greater reason than that. Then, of course, when I got my first Canon lenses, I became involved in the Canon ecosystem because once you get lenses, it's easier just to keep the same brand of cameras, so all your lenses you have can be used with new models of cameras. So, but like I said, your cell phone is a great start, but then any decent DSLR, which there are a lot of great used ones out there, you can get very affordable right now, or refurbished ones, or even an entry-level mirrorless camera will do. And again, you get good models from most of the major brands. I'm not going to endorse one over the other. Like I said, Canon, I got because Costco. So don't take that as a endorsement. They're good. They're very good. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not saying that's you're going to go wrong by getting a Nikon or a Sony or other brands as well.
Right.
And so I will jump in and translate some of these things because Rob's a great astrophotographer and a science communicator. But he went through
And
some.
I know you some jargon, so go ahead and translate
Yeah,
mine.
yeah. Exactly that. And I'm listening to it. I always listen and I know some of the things went like, whoosh, and but uh, and first of all, SLR single lens reflex camera. That's just I don't know if they're making our view cameras made anymore.
They're
Viewfinder cam
almost all mirrorless now.
They're all mirrorless, and that means that you have a digital camera just like on your phone, and you're not looking through the camera anymore. I mean, my first camera was I don't know, going back to the 60s, so it was primitive days back then with the film and didn't have a light meter or anything. You had to guess at everything. And then you went into the dark room, which is scary. But the phones now, it's not just a matter of taking a picture. We used to do things in the dark room. And when I say we, I'm kind of lying because I didn't do it. Other people did it, but I know about it. And dodging and burning in and this stuff, you take a single negative. That's a piece of film that you can look through for people that don't know. And you would try and highlight certain parts of it by blocking the light that was shining through it and things like that. Stuff you don't need to know now. And you can do all that better in Photoshop if you want to. The cameras adjust all that stuff for you for the most part. And then there was another thing. You taking a picture, if you take a single picture with a camera that can't capture something faint enough of that comet that's headed for Rob's head right now, it may not show up. But and then you try and boost it up and the sky gets super bright. So we would take pieces of film and we'd stack them on top of each other. Again, I'm talking about crazy people that spend their time in dark rooms breathing chemicals. And that would actually increase what's called a signal noise ratio and help bring things out. When you mentioned stacking, that is post processing. That means that's something you do with your images after you take them, except it's not done. You don't have to do it anymore. Your phone does it. It captures the pictures. It'll take several pictures. It'll add them together and boost the contrast on them and give you something that you can show people and tell them you spent hours in the dark room. Nobody will know what you're talking about anymore. And it does all this stuff for you. It's astonishing what things can do now. And the other thing is, you can do it with your phone. The problem is all the lenses that Rob has and I have on my Canon camera is that they're big and bulky and they're really expensive, but you can zoom in, zoom out, and all these things. The phones are getting better at that now. But the resolution is very good. There's more you can do with single lens reflex. The other thing too that I would point out is you can hold your camera, the camera on your phone up to the eyepiece of a telescope. And if you can hold it really steady or use an adapter, you can put it on that attaches to the eyepiece. You can get some really amazing pictures there too. There's so many options now.
Yeah, I have some of those adapters if I thought I'd brought one up for show and tell, but it's sitting downstairs.
Well, there are several of them available now and for, different types.
Yeah, I also recommend if you want to do long exposure stuff with a cell phone, put it on a tripod. There are tripod adapters you can get for your cell phone to attach it to any camera tripod for under $10 on Amazon. So I have one of those too, and it's a great way to sit there and let that 4-minute exposure and that astro mode take place and get some wonderful shots.
I have my iPad. I just got yesterday an adapter for that so that I could put it under my, Manfrotto tripod with an Arca Swiss ball head, which basically I'm throwing out the brand names of stuff that just to show off because that's the good stuff. But you don't need that stuff. It'll hold a great big giant camera, but
I was on Kit Peak last week and I was taking pictures of the comet with my cell phone here, and I did not have the adapter with me. So I literally just found a rock and put it under the edge of my cell phone and balanced the cell phone here. It's a little edge hanging out there so I could get to the button to push the button to start the picture. And it worked just super. It really worked well. So there's ways of improvising as well if you have that sort of thing. In fact, let's see if I can actually change my background here. Because where's the choose? I'm looking for my video settings. There they are.
Well, but to take the pressure off you there, Rob, while you're looking for that, I'm going to mention a little anecdote. This was several years ago. My son sent me a picture. He'd gotten a new phone. This is probably 5 or 6 years ago. And it was much more sensitive than the ones before, and it's ancient now, if he still has it. And he went outside and he pointed at the sky and sent it to me and said, "Look, I captured pictures of stars." And I wrote back to him and said, "You didn't just capture stars. You've got a galaxy in that." He had the Andromeda galaxy in it. This is just going out handheld, not knowing anything, and going click. Extragalactic photography.
And this is the picture I was looking for. This is from Monday night on Kit Peak with my cell phone balanced against a rock, So that obviously you can do reasonably good with a cell phone these days, just balanced on a rock. So
craziness. Yeah, so what I'm definitely getting from this is the idea of if you want to get into this, this is not something that you need to go to college for. This is not something that you need to have all kinds of certifications. Most of us, at least in this country, I'm in the United States at the moment. We have a cell phone, and the cell phones anymore have the cameras. And at this point, beginning astrophotography is just, hey, go out when it's dark outside and point it and shoot at something and see what you get. Is that about right?
I would definitely experiment. Obviously, be careful with the sun because that can damage your sensor if you keep it there too long. But be careful with the sun. But at night, when you're doing other things, yeah, that pretty much you can't hurt anything. And the worst you're going to do is have to delete a photo later if it doesn't come out at all. So the very low cost to say the least.
Right.
Yep.
So
I agree.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just said I agree.
Yeah. Um, so one of the things that was mentioned was this idea of going into a film room, into a dark room, and processing film because photons had gone through lenses and bounced off mirrors and excited various chemicals on a piece of plastic, and now you have to treat those chemicals with other chemicals, and we don't have to actually do all of that anymore because of the electronic sensors we've got, and they're in many ways better, more sensitive. You can manipulate them a little more easily. When we talk about image stacking a little while ago, Mike, you're talking about stacking actual pieces of film, and now it's just take multiple images and let the software do the job.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's the bar does seem to be lower, but if I'm just somebody out in the audience with a cell phone and I go out and I take a picture of the moon and I say, okay, great. What if I want to do some image stacking? How do I go about finding the software for this? How do I go about finding, are there places people can go to learn how to do this?
Same place you go to learn everything else as an adult, YouTube.
I was
I'm
afraid you were going to
surprised how
mention
much you can
something.
learn on YouTube, but just by looking at that. But yeah, I mean, it depends. I'm a Mac person, so I used to use Linkios for stacking mostly, which unfortunately it seems to have not been updated in a long time and is starting to fall apart. So I've been trying Cyril recently, which seems to do a pretty good job too. So I'm just starting to learn Cyril. Of course, you can do some stuff in Photoshop as well if you have that. But Cyril's a freeware program. I think GIMP does stacking as well. And it's also another open source program if you're looking for the low cost option. And it's available for Windows, Mac, and I believe Linux as well.
I would say too, I don't know the different options. When we talk about Photoshop, I would say beginners should stay away from Photoshop because there's a huge learning curve, aside from the fact that it's expensive. So find something Rob can recommend, freeware or very inexpensive things that are simple, do the simple jobs. And then as you learn what you're doing, you start to want those other things that the more complex software will do. But it's not just a matter of it costing more. It really, you have to know what you're doing with these things because you can spend, uh, I would say that people spend a lot more time processing their images than taking them now. Taking them has become, well, relatively easy. There are those people who go online and they'll see people with these $20,000 astrophotography setups with multiple telescopes in their dome in their backyard and think, well, I'll never do that. And it's just not the way to start. And it's not necessary. There's plenty that can be done. It's like everything else. It used to be there was not a simple entry point like this. Um, Back in the bad old days, people would spend the night with their eye on the guide scope attached to their telescope to get a single picture. Maybe 3 or 4 hours to get something in film. They wouldn't know if they got anything worth anything or not. And it's just not like that anymore. You don't need to go through all of that. And people ask me all the time about, well, I want a telescope. And I say, okay, sure, what are you going to do with it? Well, I want to do astrophotography. And I say, okay, that's a different thing. If you really want to do serious astrophotography, that's a whole different ballgame. But I don't recommend starting with it. Get something, have fun with it, learn the sky, learn to find things, learn from your local astronomy club, see what people are doing. It may scare you off of that dream of getting incredible images of distant nebulae, but that's okay. And just learn the field first.
Sure,
I see a
absolutely.
question in the chat if there's an app that let you take full control of your cell phone's camera. And the answer to that question is yes, there are. Um, I have an Android phone. I think it's FV I've used for that, which gives you full control over ISO and obviously you can't control the aperture because you're stuck at the fixed aperture because that's a physical property of your camera. But you control the ISO and exposure and color balance and a lot of the features there. So, well, I'm not familiar with the iPhone's apps, but there are definitely some for Android phones. So search for the camera apps and see what you can find there. But yes, they exist. I can tell you that for sure because I've used a few of them. But I loved I have a Pixel now, a Pixel phone now, but uh, the previous phone I had was a OnePlus phone a few years ago, and the OnePlus phone had a fantastic manual mode where you could change everything built in from their camera app. The Pixel phone doesn't have that, unfortunately. I wish it did. That's the one disadvantage of the Pixel camera I've seen is they don't give you as much manual control.
So, Mike, you said something
Yeah.
interesting a minute ago, talking about finding your way around the sky. And it sounds like the first real step to astrophotography is backyard astronomy. Is that about right?
Well, there are two ways to go about this. One is to buy a robot that does everything for you, because we're living in the Jetsons era now, the reference that most people won't get. And that means buying a go-to telescope, computerized. It even can figure out where it is and what time it is and figure out everything, set itself up. And then you tell it what you want to see. And if you don't know, you can ask it and it'll say, here are some things that are up now. And you go ahead and do it. And that will get you to where you want to be. Um, but you don't learn things along the way. And for some of us who are do-it-yourselfers, we like to learn what's going on. So I like the manual way of uh, you have to know where things are and how to find them. And in order to do that, you have to learn the sky, what the movements are, the different constellations, and so on. This this is um, this is something that is constantly debated in astronomy, usually with bloodshed involved. This is, you know, very seriously debated, and I think it's usually us old guys that are in favor of the manual thing because we went through it. But both are valid. And I liken it to getting a GPS to find your way around a city you've never been in before. But the thing is, it tells you where to go and where to turn. And you can follow directions all over the city, and you'll never be able to find your way on your own again. And if that suits your purposes, that's fine. I like to, because I'm just weird that way, I like to learn the city and be comfortable with it and know where I'm going and so on rather than following the GPS. Um, that's an individual choice, really.
Absolutely. Yeah. As a person in a technical field myself, I do satellite communications, and I've been doing it since the very early 2000s. Um, One of the things that I've run into is the fairly rapid advance of technology in the field. Uh, Things get simpler and simpler. They get more and more push button, more and more here, just set it on the ground, push the button, and it works. Well, what if it doesn't
Mhm.
work? Get a new one and push the button on that one, and it'll work. And that's great
Yeah.
because 90% of the time anymore, it does exactly what it's supposed to do every time the first time. It didn't used to be that way. And so there's always this part of me that's just a little nervous of what if it doesn't work? And
Mhm.
it's nice being in a position to know how it works, what it's supposed to do, and how to change little things here and there to make it do what it's supposed to do if it's not doing it automatically by itself. And I, so I would tend to agree with the idea of just go outside at night and get familiar with what you can see. See the moon go through its phases. See the stars shift by 4 minutes a night. Uh, Not that you necessarily need to go out every single night. Not that you're going to get clear skies every night, unless maybe you live in a desert, and even then, probably not. Uh, but just this familiarity you get with, hey, that looks pretty recognizable, and I've seen that several nights in a row. What is that? Oh, that's Orion's belt. Oh, okay. Well, what's that thing? There's a really bright star over there to the left of that, or to the right of that if you're in the southern hemisphere. Um, oh, that's Sirius. It's the dog star. Oh, okay. Um, One of my favorite parts of the sky, by the way. Um, and just going from point to point and figuring out where things are so that when you go to finally take that first set of pictures, you have an idea of what to look at.
Well, I think there's something more than that because you know something more about what it is you're taking pictures of. Um, and Rob, like me, is probably a regular photographer as well. He goes and takes pictures of people when they're traveling and all that stuff.
Oh, my pictures don't involve people.
No,
People are hard to work with. I do some nature shots, but I don't do a lot of. I mean, I do snapshots of people, but I don't do any formal portrait photography. When I
oh
say
no.
people, portrait photography, event photography, that sort of thing. So I'll do snapshots, but my photography typically involves nature and night sky type
Well,
stuff.
even nature, you take pictures of something in nature, and if you don't know what it is, it's not very interesting. So it's a little bit different. So I think that matters to me. It's interesting what you had to say too about, recognizing things, because I remember when I first learned the sky, and when constellations started coming around again, that I had seen and recognized for the first time a year later, well, 6 months later or whatever, later on at night, I'd see Orion coming up, that I hadn't seen in a while. It was kind of like old friends. So I really like being familiar with the sky. The stars become just like nature. You get out in nature and you recognize things, you learn the animals or the trees or whatever, and they're familiar, and that really adds something to it, I believe. I know what you're saying about the engineers too. I know engineers from JPL who build spacecraft, and if I was going into space, I'd want them to build my spacecraft.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to normal things, did they want to study for an hour before squirting some lubricant on it? It goes a little far. So the black box thing, I agree. It's handy to know how things work. And that's true, in astrophotography too. If somebody hands you a huge deep sky astrophotography setup and you don't know how things work, is something's going to happen within seconds that you're not going to be able to deal with. So that's where you really have to know what you're doing. When it gets that involved, um, you can't just buy a rig like that. There are some smart scopes that'll do everything for you, but of course you have to depend on them not breaking because you can't fix them.
Right.
But I, it seems like we go back a ways. I saw the son of a neighbor in line going to a car repair place, and I said, "Hey, what's wrong?" And he said, "I don't know. The engine it just runs, too fast all the time." And I said, "Well, open the hood." And I reached in, lowered the idle. He said, "Wow, where did you learn to do that?" I mean, really, people should know more about what's. There are things you can do yourself. But I'm all for jumping in and trying stuff. And if you get something that's automatic, or if you're using your phone and you don't know what's going on inside, that's great because you're getting results.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to learn how it works later, that's good. But I'd
Absolutely.
And
follow Rob's advice and just do it.
now, and I don't care what type of photography you do. I'm not going to denigrate if you do the totally automatic photography, because that's fine too. In fact, I do some of that as well. And I see someone in the chat, Bill Nash, just talked about the Sea Star. And well, guess what I just purchased about a week ago? I got my own little Sea Star here. And this is a really cute little great telescope. I don't know if any of you are familiar with it or not. Do you have heard of the Sea Star? I know Mike has. But they're great
Yeah, yeah,
little
I
they're
know.
yeah they're great little 50 millimeter computerized scopes, and I think they're wonderful little devices. Like I've only had it about a week, but it'll find things in the sky for you and take exposures, take 10-second exposures and stack them. And I've gotten great results with even on M33 I was doing last week for about 15 minutes, and I had a very nice M33 image. And of course, you can stack these, it auto stacks it for you, but you can also get the raw data and take it yourself and process it. So I think the Sea Star is a fantastic little instrument. So, and the previous telescopes from companies like Benoit and I'm not sure how to pronounce it, and Unistellar, they're fantastic. They make great stuff as well. But they can be two, three, $4,000, and the Sea Star starts at 500 and includes a solar filter. So it's a, in terms of, it's of course it's not as big. You're not going to get as great results with it, but it really lowers that barrier, that cost and barrier to entry. So I love it. And yeah, this is not sponsored, but I paid for it. I did not get it, but I've been enjoying it a great deal so far. And I have lots of friends who have been enjoying theirs as well. So I do like do like it a lot and think it's a would definitely not talk speak ill of anyone who's using one because I love mine. So
Absolutely. Yeah, I think what we can agree on, not that we're disagreeing on anything yet, is that however it comes down to it, whether you want to study it first and get good at basics and fundamentals, and then start stepping things forward as far as start with your eyes and then go to binoculars and then go to cell phone photos and so on and so on, or whether you go out and buy one of these $6,000 black boxes that is a computerized scope that automatically figures out where it is on the planet and points to where it can see and takes pictures for you, and then you look up, well, what is that I just took a picture of? Either way, you can come to a fuller appreciation of the universe around you. Would you agree with that?
oh, definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
And I do a lot of photography, and there's literally things I didn't know, phenomena I did not know existed before I took a photo of it.
Oh,
Um,
really?
one of my hobbies, yeah, one of my things I love doing is sunset photography, and I particularly enjoy photographing green flashes and occasionally even blue and purple flashes if the skies or conditions are
What?
really great.
I did not
And
know
one time
those
I
were
was
a
up
thing.
and I went out to photograph and I there were some clouds near the horizon. I was like, oh, I can get anything because the horizon's there. And I was photographing and I got a cloud top green flash. I'm like, wait, that looks like a green flash caused by the cloud instead of a horizon. So of course I'm going home and seeing that and I'm getting on the Google and Google cloud top green flash and found, yes, that is a thing. Cloud tops can cause green flashes. I had no idea until the first time I actually photographed one.
Oh,
So there's
wow.
things that, other people know it, but I've never encountered that phenomenon. I photographed like, wait, this is a thing. So
Yeah. Yeah,
Crazy.
buildings too,
but
potentially.
I have gotten it from a building as well. This was after I got the cloud top one, and happened to be at the ASP meeting in St. Louis at the Moonrise Hotel. I went up
Yeah.
on the top bar to photograph sunset, and I saw this someone saying, I was like, "Ooh, I know clouds can do it. I wonder if a building can," and a building did.
Yeah, it's about the disk of the sun disappearing behind something.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if it's a building or a planet, it'll do it. Yeah.
But I was not surprised. I was kind of shocked by that. I've never heard of a green top, green flash. So it's like, wow, well, that's kind of cool. So
Yeah. Yeah.
sometimes you're photographing and you see something like, wait, what is that? Another one I've had happen several times here in Tucson. We have a military base, and I knew this phenomenon. I love it when the plane flies across the face of the sun as it's setting, and you get the refraction. So it looks like there's a tail of you get refracted sunlight from behind the jet. So the jet is off the disk of the sun, but sunlight gets refracted, so it looks like this flame coming out the back of a plane. It's not really, it's just refracted sunlight from the hot exhaust. But it's a really cool phenomenon. I've gotten that several times as well.
Yeah, it's one advantage we have at Mount Wilson Observatory with solar telescopes there. Not nearly as big as that one you've got behind you in your backyard there, but uh, it's still very big. But the one advantage we have is when you follow the sun down to the horizon, which you can do if it's sitting over the ocean. Um, you're looking at the flight path out of Los Angeles International Airport, and you're just constantly getting planes flying across in front of the
Yeah.
sun. It's fantastic. Yeah.
I
You
don't know
were
if I could
very
maybe
lucky this.
share another photo or share a screen and share a couple photos here as we go along.
Hold on, gonna need to reset things. Let them know I'm heading over.
Dr. Pamela
Oh,
is getting ready
sounds
to
like I'm
come
going to break
over and
something if I do
allow
that.
the sharing if that's a thing you guys want to do.
I can do it. I can do it. It's okay.
Okay.
I know she can do it because she did it for me, but she panicked every time.
Yeah.
But
That's
she
There
good.
may
still
have
Yeah.
been panic involved.
Okay. Go for it, Rob.
Okay, let's see here. This hopefully will
Yeah,
be the one that I want to share right here. Zoom
Yes.
is requesting.
Nice.
seriously, I got to make this bigger. Oh boy.
So this is a ISS solar transit I photographed. When was it? August 22nd, so fairly recent. And obviously, this is a hydrogen alpha telescope, a Lunt 60 millimeter hydrogen alpha telescope. A few years ago, they cleared out their inventory of the old tilt-tuned ones and had a huge discount on them. So I picked up one for cheap then and started getting to trying H alpha photography. And this is really the first one I've gotten where I've actually managed to bring out the prominences in the disk at the same time. Because the prominences are so much dimmer, it's hard to get them all at the same time. But I finally tried some new processing techniques and got this to come out. So I did video with the ZWO 1600 camera, extracted the individual frames, and then stacked them to get the path of the ISS across the disk of the sun there.
This is a fabulous picture. I want to know more about which telescope, but this is great. You got prominences and everything on the surface and ISS. That's an amazing. Did you send that into APOD?
I can't remember if I sent this one into APOD or not. I've sent a bunch of stuff in recently and still not gotten one. So
Oh, well, this one deserves it.
I have sent a bunch of stuff, and I might have sent this one. I can't remember which ones I've sent because I've sent quite a few the last few months. But that's one of my bucket lists is getting APOD, which I've not managed to get yet.
And Geek Speak here, astronomy picture of the day, NASA site that everybody follows.
Oh,
And
yeah,
this one
absolutely.
belongs there.
And there are
I'm
some
gonna
things,
stop.
excuse me, on that image that are impressive even to me. And I'm very much an amateur when it comes to photography. But as you mentioned, the prominences are so much dimmer than the center of the disk of the sun, and you've got those prominences showing up in detail. You've got the sunspots showing up in detail. You've got even some of the individual cells on the surface showing up, and also the shadow of the ISS going by. That's a really fantastic photo.
I
I
I
want to do
got
another
to.
IS. Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
I was just going to say, Rob, I got to take 10 seconds here for a geek break. I want to know what telescope and filter you were using on
That
that.
was a Lunt 60 millimeter H alpha telescope from Lunt Solar Systems.
Lens 60 millimeter.
60, yes, Lunt 60.
And what's the bandpass?
It's H alpha, of course. I think it's a 0.7 angstrom or less bandpass, if I remember
Ah,
correctly. The specs.
fantastic. Okay, back
Here's
to.
another ISS transit that I did with a friend, artist Harold, who works at NORA Lab here, and we went out and from two separate locations with the similar equipment record the same ISS pass. She was 1.8 kilometers north of the center line. I was 1.8 kilometers south of the center line. So we have the parallax effect going on here. This is the same pass. We used video, extracted the frames, had a fortunate sunspot group here we could use to align the photos and see the different paths taken across the face of the sun
Oh,
when
that's
we're
really
separated by
cool.
just a few kilometers.
That's
So
amazing.
isn't I would tell people that one of them is the ISS going from west to east, and the other one is coming back the other way.
So
Orbital
this was
mechanics
a
are
fun.
like
I know I submitted this one to APOD, did not get selected because I thought I'd never seen someone actually try this and succeed at it before.
I've
Uh,
never seen that. That's amazing. And of course, you can measure if you know the altitude of ISS at the time, you can measure the scale of the solar system and getting the
mhm,
distance to
yeah.
the sun, just like with a Venus transit and all that.
Yep, very cool, very cool.
And if I'll show, I think I have my video queued up here. Maybe I'll try and get that video queued up here because I have a video I just did on Monday night and it was actually featured on the Kit Peak social media recently. Where's my share button again? There it is. Do I have this queued up? Can it get to me to share? I believe this will, although this is not the Monday night one. This is the Thursday night one. This is a video time lapse I did of the comet uh, Atlas setting behind the Wind Observatory from Thursday night. I'm actually
Very
controlling the
cool.
near dome, the Levine telescope during this time lapse there. You see the tail just keeps going for a long time. It was nearly a full moon, of course, so you still get the nicely lit up sky and domes up to the end here. So, and of course, that last streak is me walking up there with my red light to get the camera at the end of the night. Well, that's just a camera on a tripod, fixed tripod with an intervalometer doing 9-second exposures repeatedly for a couple hours. and of course going through in Lightroom and processing them, and then animating them in a video. So that's another type of fun thing I get to do on Kit Peak. So I do enjoy my Kit Peak time up there.
Yeah, noisy
Rob, do you ever
astronomer.
do?
That's a great question. How the heck bananas have you not had a photo on APOD?
Well,
Yeah,
I was talking to someone about it last week, and I was complaining about not getting phone iPod, and someone said, "Oh, you'll never get one. It's all political. It's the same 20 or 30 people all the time."
I don't think so. I was involved in co-founding Babak Tapestry. He gets the credit really, but I started it under the organization.
I remember, I know Babak. He's great. He's very
Yeah, yeah.
good.
It starting when he was here and he was staying with us. I would stay with his family in Tehran, and I told him that I was starting this organization. He said, "Well, I've got this idea we could start as a project," and we started the World at Night under that, and it became a huge thing. Um, and I can't now. I got distracted, so now I can't remember where I was going with that.
So I have an amazing Babak and Mike story I have to tell. We were at Astrofest in Arizona, or Arizona Stars. I forget exactly what the name of the event was. I've tried to block it out because it's one that was really badly organized, but it had one of my favorite memories associated with it. Mike Babak and I were all eating lunch together, regaling tales of survival of IYA. And Don Pettit, who is the nicest, sweetest astronaut ever, comes up with the body language of, "I am a nerd, please don't shout at me," carrying his lunch on a tray, and does the looking down, looking up, sort of making eye contact, and goes, "Can I sit with you?" And he wanted to pepper Babak with astrophotography questions, and it was the most amazing experience ever because Don Pettit clearly felt for Babak's astrophotography skills the way the rest of us feel about his astronautishness. And
Yeah.
he was just so humble and just I never thought I'd have an astronaut in my presence ask if he could eat lunch with somebody. It was glorious.
Yeah, it's Don. I've met him a couple of times, and he is about a regular guy, as you can imagine. But I remember another time, also someplace else, another meeting, and I saw him talking with Babak, and again asking him all kinds of questions. And I don't know if he'd even been to space yet, but he has become the expert at photography from ISS, including nighttime photography of Earth, which is moving by really fast. So it's a completely different thing. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a unique
Mhm.
situation.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, we've gone a fair distance around the world and back.
And
Anything that
I'm
we
looking for
want to
another picture I
address
want to
that
show.
we haven't yet?
Actually, I do. There's one more thing. I'm looking for this picture here I want to share, so I'm gonna get it on the
Absolutely.
screen here. I'll share in just a moment here because this actually is the thing I need to learn about astrophotography. I was up on Kit Peak last year photographing the Geminid meteor shower, and I had a camera going all night and capturing the meteors. I found all the meteors, but I cannot process like this. And this is done by Madi. I'm not going to try and pronounce his last name. He's our Noir Lab image photography. He took my data and made this out of it. And I
Whoa.
have no idea how he did that. I mean, I can layer them and get the meteors, but if you notice, he actually processed this in such a way that an unmodified
Oh,
camera, and I'll talk about modified cameras in a moment, he managed to pull out hydrogen alpha regions, those reddish regions you see,
Yep.
ionized hydrogen gas, star forming regions. And this is an unmodified camera. Now, by unmodified, I mean it's straight from the manufacturer. Astrophotographers will get their cameras modified and have the filter that's put in the camera, which cuts off a lot of the reds and near infrared, removed and put a different filter and let that in so they can photograph those star forming regions there. My camera's not like that, but Madi somehow still got that out. And I do not know how he processes these to do that. And I would love to learn from a true master because obviously I can capture data and other people can make magic with my data that I can't. And that's sort of where no, the next step that makes you go, oh, I so want to learn this. So there is a learning curve definitely way above where I am now too.
Well, that's amazing. And I was actually going to bring up with the World Night something else. And I guess you do this kind of thing, but this is something else that people could do themselves with just a camera and a tripod and a lot of patience and a certain amount of skill that can be developed very easily. I have done it myself. Now I remember the story I was going to tell. With the World at Night, there are guys that have 30 something APODs. And I got a picture at a solar eclipse in China, up in the Northwest in 2008, I believe, because I go to as many as I can. And it was really cool. So I sent it into APOD and it got selected. And I felt very sheepish about posting on the group of photographers, the private group here of guys who've got together several hundred APODs and saying, I got an APOD, and they were all very sweet about it. But if we have time, Rob, and I wanted to share a couple of, I don't want Pamela to freak out over it, but I wanted to share a couple of landscape astrophotography things.
Please do.
This
Yeah,
is
no,
something that
absolutely.
people could do themselves as well. And let's see, let me get these here so that I wasn't prepared for this, so I'm freaking out myself, but trying to figure out the best way for me to do this without having to. Okay, I'm just gonna share the whole screen and I'll put them up. There we go. Okay, so this is the kind of thing that people can do. Of course, we're sharing here the best. These are the masters. But I've done this before. I was up at Crater Lake and Bobak said, hey, we don't have any Milky Way over Crater Lake or any pictures over Crater Lake. Can you do one? And I said, yeah, tell me what to do. And I did it. And I got a decent picture. And there was a professional photographer there doing it. I got a better picture than he did. That said, then Wally Paholka went up there and blew me away. So here is, let's see, I should have made that bigger. This is taken by Jeff Dye. He took the picture behind me, actually, at my house when he was staying here with me. He's from China. This is Monument Valley. This takes a camera and a tripod and a little bit of knowledge about how to do these things best. This one is some weird looking alien structure there. Not quite sure what that could be. I think it was taken in Rob's backyard again. And you know the Milky Way here. Now, if I can get this right, here's a beauty that, yeah. And you know what I love about these things is that's the galaxy. I mean, we call it the Milky Way, but that's looking right into the heart of the galaxy. And you can see the structure of an edge-on spiral galaxy that we're looking at there.
Jeff is great. He's really good.
Yeah, that one was Carrie Ann. Can't remember her last name. And this one is too, I believe. And this one is a little bit of light painting.
I'm
Yeah.
still just seeing Jeff Dye one. I'm not seeing anything else yet.
What's that?
I'm only seeing the Jeff Dye picture. Are you changing pictures?
I have, yeah. Oh,
Okay, I'm
really?
not seeing the new picture yet. Are you? Is anyone else?
No, I'm still seeing the desert one.
Okay, I completely goofed up here. I know what I did. I'm used to doing this. I need to share the whole screen. Okay, we're going to make ourselves. Sorry about that.
There we go. That's a different one.
Yeah, yeah. And this is Carrie. And this is some light painting, which just means taking a flashlight and lighting up the foreground a little bit so it doesn't overwhelm the background. And okay, so let me. I'm sorry about that, but I got mixed up and let me get out of that. And here is another that I meant to show. This also carries.
Mm-hmm.
She is weatherandsky.com. These people are all professionals. But this is not that difficult to get something like this. That's Jeff. And then,
I have similar pictures with the Airglow over the McMath as well. So I've
of
done.
course,
That's.
I threw that in just because I saw it there.
I think he's a little bit better at processing than I am, but mine's not. Mine's close, but I think he's still got me on processing. I want to show one more light painting you just mentioned. This is a one with the Milky Way, and I'd like to go back and reprocess this because this is an old one. But this is at Tohono O'odham Community College out in Arizona here, near Sells. We had a star party out there, and the students actually built water rockets and attached glow sticks to them. So this is the a water rocket with glow sticks attached to it being launched at a star party with the Milky Way in the western sky. So I think that's just, this is one of those things that is such a fun night project to do, to that uh, extra little pizzazz with the, you see that different color glow sticks on different sides. So as it rotated, the colors of the path changed as well.
Nice.
So just a really, really fun picture. I love doing stuff like that. Just really creative and different stuff.
So the bottom
There's a
line
lot
here
that can
is
be done. Just
if this is something that is even slightly interesting to you, just go out and do it. Start small, start where you can, and just keep doing it. You get practice, ask people who know. Do the YouTube and the Google and the Bing and the LexisNexis and all that to figure out how to do things better, and just get out there and get started.
yeah, this is one that I think the simple ones like this, anybody that's got a decent camera, including now a cell phone, can set it on a tripod and get something. So I think it's a good way to start. The URL for the world at night, if you want to see lots and lots of like thousands of pictures from around the world like that, is TW Night. Let's see, TWA Night. So TWANIGHT.org.
And I'll just say, if people want to see more of me, they can Google, they can just look for Half Astro. Flickr is probably the place I post most pictures. HALFASTRO, the Half Astrophysicist, which tells you my maturity level and sense of humor.
I like
Very
it. Yeah.
nice.
And of course, people I've been chatting with on Twitch have seen my handle on Twitch is also Half Astro.
Well, thank you very much. We are at the end of our time for this particular segment. This is Rob Sparks and Mike Simmons. Thank you guys for sharing your expertise. It's been very helpful, very illuminating to me. This is not something that I've gone into, although I'm always dazzled by it, and I really appreciate you guys taking the time to do this.
Okay, thank you.
Alrighty,
Yeah.
quick update on what we're doing here. I'm going to refresh this donation thing one more time, and it looks like we are still at 6337 on the dollars. Every little bit helps, so thank you for that. We've had a few dollars come in this segment. We are gonna take a break here, throw up the interstitials, and get ready for the next segment, which is It Takes a Village, and we're gonna meet some volunteers, perhaps myself included. Alrighty.
Bye, everyone.
See you next time.